Everybody, I want to show you how to use this key lock puzzle that is in today's slides. So this is going to ask require you to use all three kinds of transformations to complete each task. Okay, the task is to get the key into the lock. So this is our key, and the sort of the outline of that key is the lock. We want to get the key fitted directly on top of that lock. Okay. And we're going to need to use translations, rotations, and reflections to do so. Okay. Um, so the nice thing here is that you can do a lot of. I would when you start out, I would just kind of experiment with how this works. Okay, and since we're talking about rotations today as well, this will also kind of hopefully when you play around with rotations a little bit, it'll kind of help some of you figure out like, oh, all right, this is how they work. All right. Now, these rotations are only going to be happening around a point, not around the origin like you've seen in some of the videos, okay, and in some of your some of the slides. So, but you'll still get the gist of it. Okay, so let's get into this. All right, let's take a look at how this works, and then I'll do one of these puzzles for you. So this first icon right here, this first symbol, is going to be your translation, right? Like it's showing that it can move left or right and up or down. So if I want to translate my image, my pre-image, I'm going to click on that button. Now you can see that an X and a Y comes up and some zeros. Well, you can tell it how far to move on the X-axis here and how far to move on the Y-axis here. So essentially, this first thing is saying left or right, and the second box is saying up or down. So let's say that I want to move it 3 places to the right, okay? Well, what would be 3? What number represents 3 to the right on the X-axis? That would be +3. So I want to put a +3 for X, right? And when I click my check mark, it'll complete the task for me. So you can see it moved it 3 places to the right. Now, let's say that's not exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to click that X button and get rid of that command and try again. So now I'm going to show you the Y-axis. Let's say I want to go down 4. So down 4 on Y would be -4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, it goes down 4. You also can do a combination of both. And I encourage you to use combinations as much as possible because ideally you want to complete these puzzles in as few moves as possible. All right. So when we're using a translation, don't do one command to the left and then one command and then another command up. Do left and up. And let me show you what I mean by that. So let's say that, for instance, I want to go up to, or excuse me, over 2 and up 2, right? To the right 2 and up 2. So right 2 would be 1, 2, and up 2, 2 more. When you're done, click that checkbox, and that tells you that you're all finished. And there you go. Now you can see over 2, up 2. Okay. Now I don't actually want to do that, but you've seen what that looks like. So I'm going to click out of that. All right, rotations. This is where understanding clockwise and counterclockwise helps us out. So if you go, and this is only you'll see that it only moves in 90-degree increments. So you get 90, 180, and 270. Okay. And you can experiment with what those look like. And I encourage you to, because that'll give you more of an idea of how these rotations work. So, and the CCW, counterclockwise, okay? If we go the other way, you can see just CW, okay? And that's clockwise, all right? So it does depend, right? Because look, if I flip this 90 degrees clockwise, it moves like that. But let's flip it again, and let's go 90 degrees counterclockwise, and it goes in the opposite direction. Now, 180 degrees, I do think what's interesting I find about this activity is they do actually put the counterclockwise and the clockwise on 180 degrees. But if you notice, if you remember from yesterday, that is not going to have any effect on how on its end result. See, so there's 180 counterclockwise and 180 clockwise, and this would be counterclockwise. It ends up being the same thing. Okay, it just went in a different direction. Now the 270 is one that was in our notes, but we didn't. I didn't cover a whole lot. But here's your 270. We just touched on it just a little bit. 270, as you're going to see, is going to move it like, see how it is like 3/4 of a full turn. Okay, so 90 degrees is going to get you that quarter turn. 180 is going to get you a half turn, and then 270 gets you 3/4 turn. All right. Okay, and then you can play around with, well, do I want to go clockwise or counterclockwise? Remember, you can always fix any of these by just clicking the X and then redoing it. Okay, and then our reflections, right? Reflections are just over are going to be we're going to have vertical reflections or X and Y. So here's the thing. You guys did not do a lot of reflecting over a line. All right. And that is in here. So that could be a little tricky for some of you. But again, play around with it. I think that the benefit of this activity is more that you kind of discovering what some of this stuff is instead of us just feeding it to you, which we've been doing because of the distance learning. This is like an opportunity for you guys to actually dig in and be like, oh, that's okay. I see how reflecting over X equals 1, what that looks like. So let's try that for a minute. So it'll show you how you want the reflection. So if you want a reflection that's vertical, we're going to reflect over an X line right now. So right now my line is 0. So if I just click this, that's what my reflection would look like. Okay, and it shows you what line it reflected over. Now you can adjust that line. All right, I can go back and let's say I want to go reflect over X equals 2, this line right here. So X equals 2, a little bit different. Okay, again, experiment with it. Now let's say I don't want to reflect over a vertical line. I want to reflect over a horizontal line. So now I'm going to use Y coordinates. So I'm going to click the other one that's going side to side, right? This, obviously these are going up and down. This is going horizontal. So just click the image that you're kind of looking for. If I click this right now, you can see, boom, there it goes. All right. And if I want to flip that again, if you want to go horizontally, you're always going to have to make that change. But if I want to, let's say I want to make a bigger reflection, let's say Y equals 3, and you can go -2, then there we go. Okay, so I wanted to, there's my line instead of Y equals 0, which it was before. Okay, so that's the gist of how to use the 3 parts. All right. So let me show you how I would approach solving one of these. All right, so this is the introductory puzzle. So here's what I'm saying to myself. The first thing I like to do is try to get it in position. I actually try to use, most students try to translate it first and then kind of move it into position. I like to use reflections or rotations first and then translate last because it's the easiest one. All right, so I'm saying to myself, all right, what's the position here? If I reflect it, these are in opposite coordinates, so reflecting it is going to be a little goofy. But I can see that if I flip that thing up the right way, it'll look like the same, like the lock. The key will look like the lock. It'll just be in a different position. So this is where rotations come into play. All right, well, how do I want to rotate this? Well, I really want this thing to go this way, kind of to swing to the left. Well, if I'm going to the left, that's counterclockwise. And I want it to swing up about a quarter turn. Because I want this, the circle part to be up here now, don't I, right? And if I think about that, oh, that's like a quarter turn. Oh, that is 90 degrees. So I'm going to click my rotation and click counterclockwise 90 degrees. and let's see how it works. That's exactly what I want right there. Okay. Now I can just translate this thing, and I'm good to go. Now, how do I translate it? Well, let me click the translate button. Let's work up with X first. So I'm just looking, now that the keys are lined, the key and the lock are lined up. Now I just have to worry about the dots, getting the dots together. So I'm going to count how many I got to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the left. So that's on X. So I'm going to go -7 here, and then that'd be right here, and then I got to go down, right? So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that'll be -6 for Y. Okay, let's see if I get that right. Okay, awesome. Okay, so then of course, when you get done, you have the option of going to the next puzzle or returning to this puzzle. You can also skip around if you want, and I'm going to actually show you what those look like. So you can go to select a puzzle. Here are all the puzzles. Okay. I would like everybody to at least try the first 4. I'd like you to try as many as you possibly can, but please at least try the first 4. The next 4 are the wall series, where you have this wall that you have to get around. The reason I say around is because you can't go over it. Okay, notice that it's on this is on y=3, right? So let's say I want to try to flip that over top of it, right? I want to reflect it, and so I'm going to actually put in y=3 and see if I can reflect it. Because look, if I reflect it from there, then I can translate it, boom, right into where I want it. Okay, but here's the problem. Boom. When it hits the wall, it won't allow it to pass it. So even though that would have been a good move, in the intro puzzles, now I have to move this thing around and do a little bit more than I would before. Okay, the next type of puzzles are called star. I'm not really sure why they're called star. Maybe because they're like a little extra special or something. But the difference here is now they have these 2 walls that are like around the lock. So you really have to move it in to where you want it. Again, you cannot reflect over these or rotate into them if you bump or translate through them. So you have to go around those things. You can't go over them or like kind of partially through them around anyway. Okay, then there's a couple challenge questions where now there's no more lock. There is just two triangles that you need to match up. Okay, but it's the same idea. All right. Okay, everybody, play around with this. It is a very good exploratory activity. All right, just play around with how to use it, and try to complete as many of these puzzles as you can, okay, before you do today's activity. See you later.